The night sky was silent except for the faint hum of radar dishes turning toward the moon. For days, the global networks had been talking about a strange repeating signal coming from its dark side. The sound was mechanical but carried something human in its rhythm, like a voice trying to speak through static. Governments called it a glitch. Some said it was an alien trap. But one man didn't agree. His name was Dr. Marcus Hale, and he had spent most of his life studying alien communication before being forced to retire. Marcus sat alone in his small home outside Houston, staring at the decoded signal on his monitor. The message repeated the same words over and over again in broken fragments. Peace, not war. His fingers trembled as he replayed it again and again. The pattern was too deliberate, too emotional. It wasn't a code for weapons or coordinates. It was a cry for help. He sent his report to the Space Authority, but they dismissed it within minutes. The official statement said the signal came from debris reflecting old radio waves from Earth. Marcus knew that was impossible. He tried again, sending his analysis directly to his old commander, Colonel Drax, but Drax's response was short and cold. "Leave it alone, Marcus. You're not cleared for this anymore." But Marcus couldn't leave it. The voice in the signal haunted him. It wasn't just noise. It sounded lonely, desperate, alive. He had seen enough classified transmissions in his career to recognize a real alien call. So that night, without permission, he went to the abandoned lunar dock facility near the coast. His access card still worked. The place smelled of oil and dust, a ghost of the old space days when humans still dared to explore. He opened the hangar and stood before a half-dead shuttle called Artemis IV. It hadn't flown in 10 years, but its engines still had enough life for one last trip. Marcus loaded a small pod of supplies and reconnected the communication array. The ship groaned like an old beast waking from sleep. He took a deep breath and whispered, "If you're real out there, I'm coming." When the engines roared to life, alarms lit up across the base. Automated voices warned him to cancel the launch. But Marcus didn't stop. The ship broke free of gravity and soared upward, flames burning bright against the night sky. He watched the Earth grow smaller behind him as silence filled the cabin. For the first time in years, Marcus felt alive again. Hours later, the Artemis IV reached lunar orbit. The dark side of the moon looked endless and empty, except for a strange metallic glimmer near a crater. Marcus adjusted his controls and descended slowly. The radar showed movement, something big, not mechanical, not human. His heart raced as the ship's floodlights hit the ground. Dust swirled, revealing an ancient structure half buried under the surface. It looked like part of a crashed ship, alien design, tall arches and curved metal glowing faintly blue. He stepped out in his suit, boots sinking into the dust. The silence was heavy. The only sound was his breathing and the faint signal growing louder in his headset. He followed it toward the wreck. Each step felt slower, heavier, as if the moon itself didn't want him there. Then suddenly he froze. Something moved between the shadows. A shape too large to be human, 8 feet tall, maybe more. Its eyes glowed an icy blue under the weak light. The creature stepped forward slowly, its body covered in strange armor that shimmered like glass. Marcus raised his hands quickly. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said through the speaker. His voice shook. "I heard your signal. I just want to help." The alien tilted its head, studying him, its claws flexed, and a low hum came from its chest like a growl. For a moment, Marcus thought this was the end. Then he noticed something. Its hands were trembling, not in anger, but fear. He took a careful step forward and repeated, "Peace, not war," repeating the same words from the message. The alien's eyes widened. It spoke in a deep metallic tone, words broken by static. "You understand?" Marcus nodded. "Yes, I understand. You asked for peace." The creature lowered its weapon. Stepping closer, now he could see her face. It was strangely beautiful and fierce, half covered by an armored mask. Her breathing was slow and heavy. She seemed wounded, parts of her armor cracked and leaking faint blue light. Marcus's scanner beeped, radiation levels low. Safe. She looked down at him, towering over the human who dared to come alone. "You are not like the others," she said in a soft but powerful voice. "They send war machines, you come with words." Marcus smiled weakly behind his visor. "Maybe that's what makes us human." For the first time, the alien warrior lowered to one knee. Her glowing eyes locked on his. The air between them was silent again, but it wasn't empty. It was the silence before something new began. A fragile understanding between two beings from different worlds. Above them, the earth shone bright and blue. And for a moment, Marcus felt hope that maybe, just maybe, this meeting could change everything. Then his radio crackled, breaking the calm. A voice from Earth Command shouted through the static. Unauthorized vessel detected on lunar surface, Marcus Hale. You are ordered to stand down and return immediately. Marcus looked at the alien, and she looked back. Both of them knew it was too late to go back now. The contact had been made, and the future of two worlds had already begun to change. The lunar base was darker than Marcus expected. The dust-covered halls stretched like tunnels of forgotten time. His helmet light flickered across cracked metal walls and broken panels that once glowed with life. The oxygen sensors warned him that this place had been dead for decades. But there were fresh footprints in the dust, large, inhuman footprints. Each one was deep, heavy, and led deeper into the base. His heart pounded as he followed the trail. The signal on his wrist tracker beeped faster with every step. Peace, not war, it whispered faintly through static. He turned a corner, and suddenly the light caught something reflective. Armor, then a shadow moved, tall and silent. 8 feet of muscle and metal stepped into view. Marcus froze. The alien was real, towering and built like a living tank. Its armor gleamed blue and black, patterns like veins pulsing faintly under the surface. The helmet had glowing lines that moved as if alive. Then it spoke, the words distorted through an ancient translator. Human, why are you here? Marcus swallowed hard, his voice shaking but firm. I came to answer your call. The alien tilted its head, confused. Call, it repeated. As if testing the word, he nodded quickly. The signal? You sent it? I heard it. The creature stepped forward, the ground trembling slightly under its weight. It was close enough now for Marcus to see its face behind the cracked visor. The alien's skin shimmered with a faint silver tone, its eyes bright and intelligent but filled with exhaustion. It looked at him not like prey but like a puzzle. Then without warning, the alien raised its arm, and a plasma blade flickered to life. Marcus lifted his hand slowly. Wait, I'm unarmed, he said, trying to sound calm though every nerve screamed to run. I'm not your enemy. The alien's weapon buzzed near his face, close enough for him to feel the heat through his suit. For a long, tense moment, it didn't move. Then it deactivated the blade, stepping back. You came alone, it said, the tone softer now. Why? Marcus took a deep breath. Because no one else would. The alien stared at him in silence, the blue glow in its chest pulsing slowly. Others fear me, it said quietly. They see monster. Marcus lowered his hands. I don't, he replied. I see someone trying to survive. The alien turned away, moving deeper into the corridor, and after a pause, Marcus followed. The air was cold and strange glowing symbols lined the walls. Each one flickered as the alien passed, responding to her presence. She led him into a massive chamber filled with alien technology, holograms of stars, fragments of data, strange devices humming weakly. This was my ship, she said, her voice distant. We came to seek a home, but war followed fire and death. Her claws tapped lightly on a shattered console. Now I am last. Marcus felt a chill. The realization hit him. This wasn't an invasion site. It was a grave. The alien wasn't a conqueror. She was a survivor. What's your name? He asked softly. The alien looked at him, surprised. Vara, she said after a pause. Commander of Zelron Fleet. He smiled slightly. I'm Marcus, human biologist. Her gaze hardened again. Human, she repeated. The ones who attacked. Marcus frowned. No, not us. We didn't even know you existed. Vara studied his face carefully, trying to read the truth in his eyes. She touched a glowing panel and a hologram appeared. A projection of dozens of massive ships burning in space. Her world falling apart. Marcus felt his chest tighten. That's your home? He asked. She nodded slowly. It was, for the first time, her voice broke. I buried them here, she said. Pointing toward a sealed door, Marcus didn't need to look. He could hear the sorrow in her tone. He stepped closer, cautiously. You're not alone anymore, he said gently. Vara turned sharply toward him, her eyes flashing. Do not pity me. Human, she hissed. I am warrior of Zelra. I need no mercy. Marcus didn't flinch, he simply said. Then I'll give you respect instead. Something changed in her expression. The tension faded slightly. She tilted her head, studying him again. You are strange, she murmured. Most humans would run, you stay. He smiled faintly. Maybe I'm too curious for my own good. The alien actually gave a sound that might have been a laugh. A rough, low sound like metal cracking but not angry. She turned back toward a control panel, pressing her palm against it. Projection appeared above them showing a map of stars, some marked in red, others blinking. This galaxy is dying, Vera said. I sent the signal to warn your world. Marcus's eyes widened. To warn us, Vera nodded. The same weapon that destroyed my people. It spreads, consumes worlds. Your planet may be next? He stared at the glowing stars, feeling both awe and fear. The mystery of the signal was deeper than anyone imagined. Then we have to tell them, he said urgently. If we can prove this, Earth might listen. Vera looked at him with tired eyes. They will not believe. They never do, Marcus met her gaze, voice steady. Then they'll believe me. For a long moment, the alien said nothing. Then softly she spoke. Perhaps you're not like the others after all. The tension faded, replaced by an uneasy understanding in that silent base, surrounded by the echoes of a lost civilization. The first fragile bond between human and alien was born. And though Marcus didn't yet realize it, that single act of courage, stepping forward when all others turned away, had already changed the course of both their worlds forever. Marcus woke to the faint hum of alien machines surrounding him. His head throbbed, and for a moment he forgot where he was. Then he remembered the tall armored figure, Vera, the last of her kind. She sat across from him now, silent, her glowing eyes fixed on the console as alien symbols danced across the screen. The cold light flickered across her silver skin. Giving her an almost ghostly look, he rubbed his temples. How long was I out? Vera turned her head slightly. 6 lunar hours, she said calmly. You fainted after exposure to energy field. Marcus gave a weak smile. Guess I'm not built for alien tech, Vera didn't reply. But he thought he saw a small spark of amusement in her eyes. He stood and looked around. The room was vast and filled with technology beyond human understanding. Holograms hovered in the air, showing fragments of destroyed worlds, blueprints of ships and strange energy readings. He walked closer to one projection. It showed a galaxy being consumed by a spreading red wave. Is that what destroyed your people? He asked quietly. Vara nodded. We called it the Devourer, she said. A weapon created by machines that turned against us. It eats everything, metal, energy, even light. I am the last to escape. Marcus felt a deep sadness in his chest. So your signal wasn't a threat, he said softly. It was a warning. Vara looked at him sharply. Your leaders did not believe, did they? Marcus shook his head. No, they think you're dangerous. They're sending people here. Her eyes glowed brighter. To kill. Marcus hesitated before answering. To capture you. Maybe worse. The air grew tense. Vera stood, her towering figure blocking the weak light. Humans always fear what they do not understand, she said bitterly. Marcus took a cautious step closer. Maybe not all humans, he said gently. Some of us want to understand. We want to learn. For a moment neither spoke. The silence felt heavy but alive, finally. Vara's shoulders relaxed slightly. You are strange, Marcus, she said. Most humans would run, you stay. He smiled faintly. I guess I'm not good at running. Vera turned toward the control panel again, pressing her hand against a glowing surface. If I trust you, will you help me? She asked without looking at him. Help you how? He asked. Vara's gaze locked onto his. I must protect the core. She led him to another chamber sealed by a thick metal door. As it opened, a bright blue light filled the room. At the center hovered a crystal the size of a human heart. Pulsing slowly like it was alive, Marcus could feel its power even from a distance. What is that? He asked. Vera's voice softened. It is the memory of my world, the core of our ship. It holds all our knowledge, our history, and the data to stop the Devourer. Marcus stared at it in awe. You mean this thing could save Earth? Vara nodded slowly. If your people can understand it, yes. But they would only see a weapon. He felt a cold knot in his stomach. She was right. The human military would take it apart, try to use it for power, not peace. Then we can't let them find it, he said firmly. Vera looked surprised. You would protect what is not yours, Marcus nodded. Because if it dies, we all die. For the first time. She smiled. It was small, almost hidden, but real. Maybe your kind still has hope, she said softly. Marcus spent the next few hours helping Vara repair the ship's systems. She showed him how to stabilize the failing reactors and reconnect the oxygen pumps. They worked side by side, slowly building a rhythm of trust. He noticed how her claws moved with precision, almost gentle despite their power, and how her voice, though deep, carried a strange warmth. At one point, the power flickered and alarms echoed through the base. Marcus looked at her. "What's happening?" Vara's eyes narrowed. "Your ships have arrived," she said grimly. Marcus ran to the window and saw lights moving above the lunar surface. Earth shuttles, armed and approaching fast. "They'll destroy everything," he whispered. Vara stood tall, her armor shifting with faint light. "Then we stand together." He turned to her. "If they see you, they'll shoot on sight." Vara tilted her head. "Then they will see what fear truly looks like," she said coldly. Marcus grabbed her arm. "Please, don't fight them." "Let me talk to them first." Vara's eyes softened for a brief second. "You would risk your life for mine," she asked. "For peace," he said simply. "For the chance to stop another war." Her expression changed again. Less warrior. More something human. "You are unlike any human I have met," she said quietly. "And you are unlike any alien I imagined," he replied. The radio on his wrist buzzed to life. "Dr. Marcus Hale. This is Colonel Drax of Earth Command," the voice barked. "You are ordered to surrender and remain where you are. We are authorized to use force." Marcus looked up at Vara, his face pale. "They're here." Vara placed her clawed hand on his shoulder, the gesture surprisingly gentle. "Then your test begins, human," she said. "Show me if peace is more than words outside." The dust of the lunar surface stirred as Earth soldiers landed, weapons glowing under the cold light. Marcus felt the weight of two worlds on his shoulders. He knew this moment would decide everything. Whether humanity's first real contact would lead to friendship or destruction. Vara moved beside him, towering and unshaken. "If they shoot," she said calmly, "I will not hesitate to defend." Marcus nodded, his heart heavy. "And if they listen," he said,
"Maybe we can change the future." As the sound of boots echoed closer,
Marcus took one last breath. The fate of two species balanced on a single choice, a single heartbeat between fear and understanding, between war and peace, and deep down, he hoped that for once in human history, someone would dare to listen. The air was tense inside the lunar base. Marcus stood near the entrance while Vara stood behind him, silent but ready. The heavy sound of boots echoed through the metal halls as Earth soldiers advanced, their suits glowing under the harsh light. The voice of Colonel Drax came through the radio again. Sharp and full of authority. "Marcus Hale, you are under arrest for violating direct orders. Step away from the alien and surrender immediately." Marcus pressed the radio button. "Colonel, please listen to me," he said quickly. "She's not a threat. The signal wasn't an attack, it was a warning. She's trying to help us." Static filled the line for a moment before Drax replied. "Don't play hero, Marcus. You don't understand what you're dealing with." Marcus's voice shook with anger. "I understand better than anyone. She's the last of her kind. If we kill her, we destroy any chance of peace." Drax's tone turned cold. "Peace isn't the mission, containment is. You had your chance. Now step aside." The words hit Marcus like a stone. He looked back at Vara, who stood still, her glowing eyes calm but distant. "They won't stop," he whispered. Vara's voice was low. "Then they will learn." A moment later, the soldiers entered, their guns aimed and ready. "Hands up," one shouted. Marcus raised his hands, trying to look harmless. "Please listen to me," he pleaded. "She's not the enemy." But the moment Vara moved, everything changed. One soldier panicked and fired. The plasma bolt hit the wall near her shoulder. The noise was deafening in the narrow corridor. Vara's eyes flared blue and she moved with lightning speed. In one motion, she raised her arm, and a pulse of energy burst out from her armor. The shockwave threw the soldiers backward like dolls. "Stop!" Marcus shouted, running between them. "Vara, stop!" She froze, her claws inches from a fallen soldier's helmet. Her breathing was fast and angry, but she pulled back. The floor glowed faintly where her energy had struck. Drax's voice roared through the radio. "You've made a huge mistake, Marcus." Marcus turned toward the soldiers, his voice desperate. "Nobody has to die. She could have killed you all, but she didn't." "She's trying to show mercy." The men hesitated, unsure, but Drax's order came fast. "All units, fire at will." The corridor exploded with light. Marcus felt heat rush past his face as plasma bolts filled the air. Vara moved again, her body shielded in blue light. The energy struck her armor but didn't break through. She roared, a deep sound that shook the walls. Then she raised her hand and another wave of energy burst outward, disabling every weapon in the room. The lights flickered and everything went silent. Marcus could barely breathe, his ears rang. The smoke thick around them. Vara stood tall, chest rising and falling, glowing faintly in the darkness. "I did not want this," she said softly. "But your people force it." Marcus looked at her, heart pounding. "We have to go." "They'll send more," Vara nodded. "Follow me." She led him through a back tunnel of the base. Ancient and half-collapsed, Marcus stumbled to keep up. The walls were carved with glowing symbols from her people. This was part of the old ship, she explained. A passage to the lower core behind them. Marcus could still hear radio chatter. "Target is fleeing underground, repeat. Target is escaping." Drax's furious voice followed. "Bring them back alive if possible. Otherwise, neutralize them." Marcus felt a deep ache in his chest. The man who once trained him was now hunting him, after what felt like hours. They reached a hidden chamber filled with dim blue light. Vara sealed the entrance behind them using a wave of her hand. The wall melted and reformed like liquid metal, trapping the soldiers outside. Marcus collapsed onto the floor, breathing hard. "You just made yourself the most wanted being in human history," he said, trying to catch his breath. Vara sat beside him, her voice calm. "And you, Marcus Hale, are now a traitor to your own kind." He gave a weak laugh. "Guess we both broke the rules today." Vara looked at him, the faintest smile touching her lips. "Rules are for those who fear," she said quietly. "You did not fear," Marcus met her gaze. "I was scared," he admitted. "But fear doesn't mean you stop doing what's right." For a while, they sat in silence, listening to the faint rumble of the soldiers above. Vara began repairing a broken data crystal. Sparks lighting her claws, Marcus watched her with quiet admiration. "Back there," he said softly, "when they fired, you could have killed them." Vara didn't look up. "I almost did," she said, her tone heavy. "But I saw you," Marcus frowned. "Me?" Vara nodded slowly. "Your eyes. You did not see a monster." Something about her voice made his chest tighten. He realized she wasn't just a warrior. She was someone who had lost everything and now stood between extinction and hope. The base shook slightly as explosions echoed in the distance. "They're trying to dig us out," Marcus said. Vara stood tall again, her armor humming softly. "Let them try." She looked down at him. "You should leave, Marcus. Go back." "Save yourself." He shook his head firmly. "No, I'm staying. I started this, and I'm finishing it." Her eyes softened again. "You're a strange human," she murmured. "You risk your life for one who is not even of your world." Marcus smiled faintly. "Maybe that's what makes me human. Above them." The sound of drilling and explosions grew louder. Time was running out. Vara turned toward the glowing core chamber. "There is one place they cannot reach," she said. "Deep below the ancient power tunnels," Marcus stood. "Then lead the way." Together they vanished into the shadows of the lunar tunnels, hunted by soldiers from one world, guided by a survivor from another. Two beings once enemies by nature, now running for the same thing, a chance at peace. A chance to prove that trust between species was not a dream. And as the dust settled behind them, Colonel Drax stood above the ruined corridor, his voice cold as he gave the next command. "If they won't come out, we'll bury them there." They moved deeper into the moon where light was rare and silence felt heavy. The tunnel smelled of old metal and cold dust. Marcus kept his suit light on so he could hear Vara breathe beside him. Her footsteps were soft despite her size. She knew the maze like it was part of her ship. They reached a wide cavern lit by faint blue veins in the rock. In the center sat a ring of broken machines and a small pool of clear liquid that reflected the stars. Vara sank to one knee and touched the water gently. "This place remembers," she said, her voice low and strange. Marcus watched the way the light played on her armor and felt a new respect. She showed him how to move quietly down here, how to read the glow in the stone that marked safe paths. Marcus followed, learning fast because he wanted to keep her safe. At times she would stop and press a hand to the wall. When she did, tiny runes lit up and a soft hum filled the air. Marcus learned these were messages from her people, small pieces of history and song carved into the moon itself. Each night they found shelter in caves where alien machines still breathed a little life. Marcus taught Vara simple human words and short songs. He showed her pictures of Earth on his tablet, oceans, cities, children laughing. At first she looked puzzled by the tiny images, but then she would smile softly and press the glass like she could touch those places through it. "It is beautiful," she said once. Small, but full. Vera taught Marcus about Gelra in return. She told him about bright skies and long seas of glass, about cities built on pillars of light that sang when the wind passed. Marcus listened and felt his chest ache with wonder. He had read about other worlds in dusty books, but hearing her speak made it real. They learned each other's ways slowly, spelling out words one by one. Teaching and learning became ritual for them. Some evenings, Marcus would stumble over a Gelran phrase and she would laugh. The sound was rough and low, but it warmed him like a fire. He found himself waiting for that laugh the way people wait for sunrise. Vara began to trust him in small ways. She let him touch the broken lines of her armor to help fix them. Her skin was warm under the metal, softer than he expected. Once she allowed him to clean a small wound on her forearm. He moved carefully, his fingers steady. The wound healed under his hands and she sighed. "You are careful," she said simply. "You look at me, not at the weapon I carry." Marcus told her stories of Earth too. Small stories about people who risked everything to save strangers. He spoke of old heroes and of quiet neighbors who shared bread in hard times. Vara listened, and sometimes her eyes glimmered with unreadable light. "Your stories are full of small courage," she said. "We had big courage and big sorrow." Marcus felt the meaning deep inside him. He realized their worlds were different, but their hearts could be the same. As days passed, they worked on the ancient systems together. Vara used her hands to weave energy through fragile conduits. Marcus adjusted human tools to fit alien sockets. Often, late at night, they would sit by the pool of clear liquid and test tiny things. A shard of Gelran crystal hummed when pressed to the stone. It glowed like a heartbeat and gave them small power to run lights and heal broken parts. The crystal was special. Marcus could feel its warmth in his palm. Vara told him it held memory, not weapons. It kept songs, maps, and the names of the fallen. "We made many things," she said, eyes distant. "But we never meant to make something that eats the sky." Marcus touched the cool surface and thought of the devourer. He felt anger and fear being joined by a new resolve. While they grew closer, Earth Command planned a different kind of visit. They had not stopped after the firefight. Drax and his officers argued and made fast choices driven by fear. Satellites in orbit picked up the presence of strange energy deep in the moon. The leaders on Earth panicked and ordered a show of force. An orbital strike was set to clear the base and anything nearby. Marcus learned this from a secret feed he hacked into. The countdown burned like a thread in his mind. When he told Vera, she did not show panic. Instead, she stood very still and watched the pale light. "They choose fire because they do not see what holds light," she said quietly. Marcus could not stand watching their home be destroyed for fear. He knew he had to act. They worked through the night, planning small ways to stop the strike. Marcus knew little about orbital commands, but he knew enough to try. Vara offered the shard of crystal and other small cores to help him reach the systems. "It may hurt you," she warned. "It will not break you unless you let it." Marcus thought of Earth, of children, of busy streets, of small quiet acts that meant everything. He thought of Vera's stories and how both their peoples could die if they failed. So he took the crystal, holding it like a promise. They prepared the old communications panel in the cavern. The relic hummed awake with alien light. Marcus felt power moving through him when he touched the shard. It made his hand steady, which he needed. They worked together until dawn. Their breaths were loud in the hollow, and their hands moved as if they had done this many times before. When the time came to use the crystal, Vara stood close behind him. Her presence was a shield stronger than any metal. Marcus felt both fear and courage. He pressed the shard into the ancient console. The light spread like veins of blue through the metal. Outside, far above, the dark shape of a strike satellite turned toward the moon. Marcus and Vara watched the glow climb. They held hands for a moment, a human hand inside a three-fingered gauntlet. It felt impossible and perfect at once. The fate of many worlds hung on what would happen next. Deep in the cavern, their bond had turned into something firm, something that could stand against fear. Whether they would stop the strike or not, they had already changed each other. They had built trust inside a place meant for death, and that made them both brave in a new way. The countdown had already begun. Red numbers flashed on the screen as the orbital weapon prepared to fire. Marcus could feel the ground trembling softly beneath his boots. Vara stood beside him, her eyes glowing brighter than ever before. The entire lunar cavern pulsed with blue light from the crystal at the core. The energy was building faster than he could control. "If that cannon fires," he said, his voice trembling, "everything here, including us, will be gone." Vara didn't look afraid. She moved closer to the glowing crystal, her claws tracing its surface with care. "I can stop it," she said, "but it will cause something." Marcus shook his head quickly. "No, we'll find another way." She turned to him, her voice calm. "There is no other way. The strike is locked to this location. They will not miss." Marcus stared at her, realizing what she meant. "You mean the crystal," he whispered. Vara nodded slowly. "It can block their weapon, absorb the pulse, but only if it has a living energy link." Her gaze fell on him gently. "It must be guided, Marcus, not by machine, by will." He stepped closer. "You're saying it needs you?" She smiled faintly, a sad, quiet smile that made him feel something break inside. "I was born for duty," she said. "I will end it with purpose." Marcus grabbed her arm. "You can't, you'll die." Vara looked down at his hand, her voice soft but firm. "I already died once when my world fell. This time I can choose how." He felt tears burn his eyes. "Please, there has to be another way. You can't just—" But she pressed her hand against his chest, the blue light shining between them. "You dared to listen when no one else would. That is enough." The air grew hot as the countdown reached its final minute. The Earth weapon rotated into position, red beams locking onto the lunar base. Marcus's radio crackled with static. "Marcus Hale," Colonel Drax's voice thundered. "You've forced our hand. Evacuate now or be vaporized." Marcus ignored it, his eyes fixed on Vara. "If you do this," he said, "I'll never forgive myself." Vara leaned closer, her tall frame casting him in shadow. "Then forgive me instead," she said softly. Before he could stop her, she stepped into the circle of energy. Her armor began to glow with blinding light. The blue crystal pulsed faster. Responding to her touch, Marcus ran to the console, trying to reroute the power so it wouldn't consume her. Sparks exploded from the walls, the entire chamber shaking. "Vara, stop!" he shouted. "It's too much!" But Vara's voice came through the roar, steady and strong. "No, Marcus, I see now why your kind survives. You break rules to protect what you love even when the world tells you not to." She lifted her arms, the energy wrapping around her like ribbons of fire. Her eyes met his one last time. "You dared to understand me. Now I dare to believe in you." The light flared, filling the entire moon with a blinding glow. Marcus shielded his eyes as the blast ripped through the sky. On Earth, the control center saw the strike weapon power down suddenly, its system short-circuited by an unknown feedback surge. The orbital cannon collapsed in on itself, burning out silently in orbit in the lunar cavern. The silence that followed was endless. Marcus opened his eyes slowly. His ears rang, smoke filled the air. He looked toward the crystal. It was cracked. Still glowing faintly, Vara was lying beside it. Motionless, he stumbled forward, falling to his knees beside her. "Vara," he whispered, shaking her shoulder gently. Her armor was cold, but her chest still glowed faintly. He placed his hand over it. "Please, come back." Her eyes fluttered open slightly just for a moment. "Marcus," she whispered, "the stars are quiet now." He felt his throat tighten. "You did it. You saved them." She gave a weak smile. Then perhaps peace was not just a dream. Her hand reached up, touching his face once. Her claws grazed his skin softly. "Do not let them forget," she said, and then her hand fell. The light in her chest faded to a dim spark and then went dark. Marcus sat there for a long time, unable to move. The world above him had gone silent. He looked around the cavern. The machines had gone still, the crystal no longer hummed. Everything that once shone with alien energy now seemed like ruins again. He didn't know how long he stayed there. The human rescue teams didn't come right away. When he finally walked out onto the lunar surface, the Earth hung above him like a bright blue lantern, untouched, alive, safe. He looked up and whispered, "You did it, Vara." His breath fogged against his visor. "You kept your promise." He buried the cracked crystal deep in the dust near the ship's remains, using his hands because there was no tool that felt right for something sacred. When he finished, he placed her broken armor plate over it, marking the spot. The faint blue glow under the surface looked almost like a heartbeat before it disappeared forever. As he turned to leave, his radio came alive again. "Dr. Hale, do you copy?" It was a young voice. Not Drax. The strike failed, the weapon is gone. Are you alive? Marcus didn't answer at first. He stared at the stars and said quietly, yes, but not the same man who left. He climbed back into the damaged shuttle, setting the course for Earth as the engines roared weakly. He looked one last time at the silent moon. Somewhere under that gray dust lay the first being who had ever truly trusted a human. The stars shimmered faintly, and for a brief second, Marcus thought he heard her voice, soft, distant, and full of peace. Not war. Peace, he smiled sadly, the tears falling silently inside his helmet, and whispered back, always, before the ship vanished into the endless dark between worlds. When Marcus returned to Earth, the world was already talking about him. Some called him a hero, some called him a traitor. The news networks showed blurred images of the moon, strange light patterns caught by telescopes, and endless debates about what really happened up there. But Marcus didn't care about the noise. He had seen the truth with his own eyes. He had seen courage, sacrifice, and something greater than fear. He was taken into custody the moment his shuttle landed. The soldiers looked at him like he was dangerous, like he carried something they couldn't understand. Colonel Drax came to meet him personally. His face was hard, but his eyes looked tired. You ignored every order, Drax said coldly. Do you realize what you've done? Marcus stood still, his voice calm but firm. Yes, I stopped a war. Drax's jaw tightened. You destroyed an orbital weapon worth billions. Marcus looked him in the eye. And saved billions of lives. The colonel didn't respond. He just stared at Marcus for a long time before saying, You'll be confined until further notice. They kept him in an isolated research facility under the Pacific base. The walls were white, the air too clean. Every day, scientists came to question him. They wanted to know how he had shut down the weapon, what technology he had used. Marcus told them the truth. It wasn't me, he said every time. It was her, but they didn't believe him. They thought he was hiding alien tech or classified data. Days turned into weeks. Marcus stopped talking after a while. He spent hours staring through the small window at the ocean outside. The silence reminded him of the moon. Sometimes he thought he could still hear Vera's voice whispering faintly through the hum of the walls. Peace, not war. It made him smile through the pain. Then one night something strange happened. The lights in the facility flickered, and all the screens turned blue. The scientists ran around in confusion, trying to fix the systems. But the power didn't fail. It was changing. A soft pulse spread through the building like a heartbeat. Marcus stood up from his bed, heart racing. He knew that light, that rhythm. It was Gelran energy. The door to his room unlocked with a soft hiss. A security officer shouted outside. We've got interference from the lunar feed. Marcus stepped into the corridor. His hands trembled. It's her, he whispered. The scientists brought up the video feed from the moon. The camera showed the crater where he had buried Vera's crystal. The ground was glowing faintly blue, pulsing slowly like a living thing. Marcus leaned closer to the screen, his breath fogging the glass. The pulse grew stronger. And then a faint voice came through the static, distorted, broken, but clear enough. Marcus, hear me. His heart almost stopped. It was Vera's voice, soft and steady. The stars remember, she said. I am not gone. The scientists stared in shock. Unsure if it was real or an echo, Marcus didn't wait. He slammed his hand on the control desk. Record everything. He shouted, Don't touch the signal, just listen. The voice continued for a few seconds more. Peace, not war, guide them. Then the light faded, and the signal vanished into silence. No one spoke for a long time. Some thought it was a glitch, but Marcus knew. He could feel it deep in his bones. She had left a piece of herself behind in the crystal. A message. A promise, a living spark. Months later, Marcus was released quietly. The government couldn't prove anything, and the public had started to turn in his favor. Many people believed the story after leaked footage showed the destroyed weapon and the faint blue glow left on the moon's surface. People began to talk about unity, about reaching out instead of striking first. Marcus left the cities behind and built a small observatory in the mountains. He wanted to live close to the stars. Every night he would look up at the moon, where a faint blue shimmer still appeared from time to time. He knew she was there somehow, not alive in body but alive in light. In the echo of her sacrifice, he started writing again. Not scientific reports, but simple stories he wrote about her world. About Gelra's seas of glass and the way her voice softened when she spoke of hope. He told people about her courage, her strength, and the moment she smiled before saving 2 worlds. His stories spread quietly through the networks. People read them and began to see aliens not as monsters, but as something familiar. Children sent him messages, drawings of tall blue warriors standing beside humans. Teachers read his words in classrooms, and for the first time in decades, people talked more about peace than conquest. One clear night, Marcus sat outside with a cup of tea. The sky was full of stars, the air still. He looked at the moon and whispered softly, "You were right, Vera, they're learning." A soft breeze brushed past him, and for a second he swore he heard a low hum, like the sound her armor made when she breathed. He smiled and closed his eyes. Suddenly, his old monitor inside the observatory flickered to life. A faint transmission appeared. A sequence of light pulses and sound waves. It wasn't human. Marcus recognized it instantly. It was Gelran language. The message translated simply to, "We remember you." "Human of Earth." Marcus stood frozen, the tears running freely down his face. "She did it," he whispered. She reached them. It meant that somewhere far beyond their stars, survivors of Vara's kind had received her signal. They now knew that humanity was not an enemy but a friend. He stepped outside again, looking at the endless night. The stars seemed brighter. The air felt alive. He thought of all the fear and anger that had once filled the galaxy, and how one act of courage had changed everything. He raised his hand toward the moon, his voice soft but steady. "If you can hear me, Vara, we kept our promise. The story didn't end in war," the wind answered with a quiet whisper that sounded almost like her voice. "Peace, always." And under that vast, endless sky, Dr. Marcus Hale smiled for the first time in years, knowing that somewhere among the stars, a new chapter of hope had already begun.